so this is our introduction to R. Kind of taking a detour. We had the introduction on what is biometry, went over definitions and so forth. Now what we're going to do is introduce you to R, even though we're not going to really get into it big time for another couple of weeks. We will still use it, so we're going to kind of get introduced to it. All right, so what is R? R is an open source stats program. Open source meaning it's free. It's freely available on Windows, Mac, and Linux. So whatever your preferred operating system is, you can download it and you can install it. The nice thing about R is that it's completely modular. All right, and not all stat systems are modular like this. The benefit of it being modular is that you only have to load the packages that you need at that time for whatever specific test you're running. All right, so this keeps the resources down on your computer. For us, it's probably not going to make a huge difference. But if you get into some higher level statistics, higher level mathematical modeling and so forth, like in GIS course, there's some stuff maybe at the very end of the GIS course. There's some stuff that you can use that'll integrate with R. And the nice thing is that it only loads the packages that it needs to run the stats. So it frees up all of this memory that can then be used for the computation. That's a really nice thing. We're going to load some of the packages, and there's two different ways to load it. One is we actually type it out, library, and then the package name, and it'll load it. Or, as you'll see in RStudio, we can just check a checkbox in it, and it basically copies and pastes this function for us. All right. R is command line driven. I'd say that's probably the downside because most people aren't used to command line. I think most people here, probably all people here, didn't grow up with the DOS operating system. You didn't load up the computer and have to actually type in the name of your game to get it to work. You just had to click icons. All right. And that kind of makes the command line driven commands difficult to learn. It's a steep learning curve, but once you get it, it becomes fairly easy. I hope it becomes fairly easy. Now, there are graphical user interfaces that make it much more like an SPSS type of program or a JMP type program. I've used some of them. We've used some of them in this course. We don't continue using them because by the time we get into the graduate level statistics, we can't use those graphical user interfaces anymore. We actually have to type the command, and that kind of set us back learning how to actually type the commands in. So we're not going to use the graphical interfaces, but there are some of them out there. So how do we get R? Well, it's on these computers right now. So it's already installed, and I actually think it's on most, if not all, of the computers across campus. R is installed. I don't know if RStudio is installed in all of them. All right. If you need to download it, all that you have to do is go to rproject.org, so r-product.org, or search for R statistics, and you will find rproject.org. And then you go to the download link, and the download will basically have you pick a mirror. So I'm going to open up Firefox here and just kind of demonstrate that. If you're going to work on your own laptop or your own device, then this is what you're going to have to do. There it is. So I forget. All right, let me end this presentation. Here's that. Oh yeah, definitely it's screwed up because the resolution's all jacked up. Let's fix this too. I think I'm going to put in an IT request and say this is not. I've got to get this fixed.
Do you want us to have both R and RStudio?
Yeah, I'll get to that. All right, so we've got I just got Firefox open here. So all I have to do is type in R statistics, and the top hit is this R project for statistical computing. That's our rproject.org. And when we click on Get R, download, so to download R, all right, please choose your preferred crayon mirror. All right, so download R, and then you're listed with a list of these mirrors. You just scroll down to the US mirrors, and you can pick any of these. I typically use the Revolution Analytics out of Dallas, but any of them. I mean, it's not going to make a difference. You may save a second, maybe 2 seconds by downloading from a closer mirror than downloading it from, let's say, the Czech Republic. So now here's your options: Linux, Mac, or Windows. You can download R for Windows, and what you're going to do is basically download the base. All right, and when you download the base, it opens up this window. It says download R 4.0.2 for Windows. Ask you to save, or it automatically downloads for you. And then when it pops up in your download bar, you just hit install. All right, pretty easy to do. If you're curious about installing R for the first time, it takes you here. You can read about some of the options that you have. If you just keep whatever R suggests, I mean, that's fine. R is the stats program. All right, that's the stats program that we're going to use. This over. All right, but we are going to use something a little bit different. Someone came up. What's the password? Hey, how are you? Good. What about that? All right, so your computer or laptop, you go ahead, you can download it and install it. On campus, you probably don't have to do it on any of the campus computers. If you run into any errors while you're installing, please email me. If you run Linux, it's probably in the package. It's probably in one of the packages for your system itself, so you might not have to download it directly from R. Now, R is the stats program. We're going to use a front end for it. All right, this isn't a graphical user interface per se. This is a front end which will kind of organize the windows in R into something that's a little bit more user-friendly, especially for beginners. All right, so RStudio is an integrative graphical development. All right, it is available from the rstudio.com. That's their website. All right, so it's going to take R and install it. And Odessa asked, do we have to download both? Yeah, if you downloaded RStudio and try to install it, it'll tell you need to download and install R. And it'll ask you, do you want to do that? And you can hit yes, and it will automatically download R and install it for you. It should automatically download or install. Doing it on a Mac or Linux is a little bit different. I don't think that process works, but on Windows, I'm pretty certain it would download or install R for you. Now, why do we use it? It's going to simplify several things for this class, for beginners. One is importing data files. That is a big deal, all right? That's going to be a very big deal for us. If you had to learn command lines and learn how to reference file locations, that's just one more thing, one more step to learn. This makes it just like you're opening up a file in Microsoft Word. All right, installing packages. Now R has a graphical interface that allows us to install packages. So, yeah, is one better than the other? Probably not. I think it's a little bit more intuitive in RStudio. Loading packages in the regular R file or R program, you actually have to type in the command library packages, and you have to know what packages are installed. In RStudio, you can see a list right there and just put a checkbox on the ones that you want to be loaded because you know you're going to use those. It's also much easier to view variables, functions, histories, and other things in this program. And I think probably the newest thing is that it allows us to make annotated statistical documents. All right, and this is our R Markdown. So the Markdown language is available. It's becoming more prominent on websites. You can use this Markdown language to generate, publish nice-looking reports. All right, so, and we'll see all of these. RStudio should be installed on all of these computers here. If you have your own laptop, you're going to have to download it and install it. All right, and that's also pretty easy. So exit out of that. So We were already in R. If I just did a search for RStudio, we're going to hit our very top one, which is rstudio.com. And we can go to download. And our version, it says choose what version. We want the free version, the RStudio desktop. There's also a server version, which I know the university has asked me about. Oh, would it be easier to have RStudio on the server and then everyone can connect to it through the laptop? And my thought was, no, it's not. That means you have to be on campus. You have to be connected to the internet. And if the internet's down, I mean, you're hosed. You can't run it. So get the desktop, the free version, and then it asks what version do you have. So Windows, it's just an exe file. You download it, you run it, it'll automatically install it. The Mac OS version is a DMG file, so if you run a Mac, you should know how to install these files. If you run Linux, I ran into some pretty significant issues with the Debian 10 version, but if you run into problems, just email me. I will help you out. In some cases, I may ask you to bring your laptop in, and we'll work outside my office until we get it fixed. So we'll work with those. All right. So RStudio. All right, let's introduce this. There we go. All right. So R basics. So go ahead and open up RStudio. And what I'm going to do is introduce you to the different components of it. Now your RStudio may look a little bit different. What I'm gonna see if I can adjust the slideshow so it's not in the front. Presentation always on top. No. That's not checked. Just annoying. Okay, did you guys open it up? So I opened up RStudio, and this is what mine looks like. And this is a little bit different than what I have in the presentation, because I have 4 different windows, but in RStudio, the one that I just opened up only has 3. That's okay. All right, we can get that second one by going, or that last one by going up to File, New File, and then RScript. Okay, and now we have our 4 windows. All right, so let me get this presentation back over here. Actually, I'm going to do that, leave that here, and see if this will, yeah. All right, so these 4 windows are the 4 windows of RStudio. We have our script window. This is where we're going to type in our commands. We're going to run it. And when we make our markdown documents and we run the chunks in there, we'll actually see the output in this window. Down here is the console window. That is the actually R. That is what R looks like. So if I open up R just on this computer, and I've modified my settings, R opens this. This is my R window. This is the console window. And that console window is right here. That's our console window. All right? Our script window. I do new file script. Here's that. Here's my script in R. So I can do everything in R. I'll do citation. All right. And Control Shift. What's my code? Can't remember what my code is. Run line. There it is. Control R. So when I run that code, it pipes the actual text to the console itself, and then R, the console of R, runs. All right. RStudio does this same thing. So if I type this in the script, when I execute it, it copies that command and puts it down into this console window. So basically what these two windows are is, this is R. This is R, that's what running. This is just a notepad or a word pad. That's all that this is. All right. So our third and fourth windows. Third and fourth windows. Come on, third and fourth windows. Try this again. Maybe there's something like I can't span two different monitors. There it is. Environment and history window, that's up here. And then this is our plots, packages, and help window. All right, and we're going to introduce you to all of these different things. So the environment history window shows you what variables are loaded in memory. It'll show you all of the codes, all of the commands that you executed in the past, which can be useful if you accidentally delete your script and you're like, oh crap, what did I run? You can, if the undo function doesn't work, all right, you just go back to your history and it shows you everything that you ran. The plots, packages, and help window, you'll see our plots. If we make a plot, it'll pop up here. All right, here we see our packages. We can easily just do a checkbox and load that package at that time. All right, so here's our description. We're going to get into this. So the console window, that's the command prompt. So you can type in commands right in that prompt and get a response. So click down in your console window and type in 4 + 4 and hit enter and see what it gives you. Oh, something's making noise. Whose is it? Did it give you an answer? Hopefully it's the correct answer. It comes out with 7, then we've got a problem. Did you get it? So you type it down in this bottom window here, just right at the hash. So yeah, I'll do this in the console window. In basic R, all I have to do is do 4 + 4. All right, and I get this output. So this brackets 1 basically says this. I have one item in the output, and that's it. So if we did a function that's going to give us, let's say, 10 items, a 1 will also be there. If we did a function that said 100 items, all right, you'll have a 1 here because that's item number 1, and then on that second row, whatever item number that is, that's going to be the number that's there. So maybe if we get 50 items in a row, it'll have items 1 through 50 there, and then we'll have a 51 in the bracket saying this is item number 51. You'll see the demonstration. I mean, I could do it right now if I just did a random draw of 100 items. And you can see it. Here's our 100 items. That's item number 1, that's item number 7. This one's 67, that one's 91, this is 97, item number 98, 99, and 100. So that's all that is there for, those brackets. And those brackets have a name. It's called subscripting, and we'll talk about that as well. All right, so you can accomplish the same thing in your script window up here. So I know I don't have it zoomed in. I don't think I could zoom in. I think that's why I typically used R in this class. But if you do 4 + 4 here, all right, and hit enter, oops, 4 + 4. All right, if you hit enter, it just goes to a new line. That's what a text document is gonna do. You have to have a way to pipe it down to the console window, and there's a couple different ways to do it. So one is to have it highlighted. and then click up here to the run. And when I run it, it copies that and pastes it right into the console window and we get our answer. Do we have to highlight it? No, we don't. The default for the run is to run the line or the selection. So my cursor is on that line, on that 4+4 line. If I hit run, it copies whatever's on that line and pastes it. Do I have to be at the end of it? Nope, I can be at the middle of it and hit run, and that works. All right. And the last way, and I think the way that you will probably use this, and near the end of the semester you'll do it this way, is to use a shortcut. All right, so instead of having to click this all the time, we have, if you look up run, our shortcut is Control-Enter. So I'm right at the line, I can highlight it. If I hit Control, hold down Control and hit Enter, it does the same thing. It copies and pastes it down here. So that's basically all that I use is Control-Enter, because as you're typing and running the commands, I mean, I don't want to take my hand off the keyboard. All right, I did 4+4=8. Maybe I want to save a variable as 10. I want that in there, so if I do x+5 and run it, I didn't take my hand off the keyboard to do that. So I think you'll probably use whatever gets the job done now, but I do think you'll probably use the Control-Enter as we move forward. All right, let's get back to our presentation. All right, so we kind of covered all of this. Click run or click Control-Enter, and there's other options. So we'll save our scripts, and then when you come back, if you want to run everything in that script and pick up where you left off, there is an option to run everything in that script. So you don't have to like highlight everything. You don't have to use Control-A. Just do the run everything, run all. All right. So I put this in red, just to emphasize that you don't have to highlight it. As long as the cursor is on the line, it will run everything on that line. All right? All right, environment history windows. All right, so the environment history window lists the objects that are currently in memory. These objects that we have in memory are going to be things like our variables, our data frames, our vectors, our arrays. Any functions that we create will appear in this environment window. And it'll actually break it down. They'll have a section that's called data and a section that's called variables, a section that's called functions. All right, so we'll see this. We'll see it develop as we continue. Now, on a lot of this the default is to save the script in as like a backup. So when you close it down and open it back up, it opens up what you were last working on. So when I go into my office, I told you I had issues yesterday trying to get RStudio up. When I finally did get it reinstalled, I opened it opened up all of the last scripts that I was working on. Even if they weren't saved. I have an untitled there because I've never saved it. That's just my basic Scratchpad. It opens that up, which is really nice. But the downside of that is sometimes R will also save all of the objects, all of the variables that has been in its memory. It basically reloads the environment and how you last closed it. And that can be trouble. Because you could have made a variable called x1. All right, and you could be working with that variable today, and then a week later, you try to make another variable called x1, but perhaps you forget to run that first line to get it into memory. So anytime you reference x1, you're now running the variable that you created last week. So if you ever need to start fresh, and sometimes I will say, hey, you know what, just clear everything out. Let's start your script from beginning up to where you're at so we can reload the environment. To do that, all you have to do is hit clear, and it wipes everything from memory. That's great, because if we were working in actual R, we have to manually go through and remove all of the variables, remove all of the data frames, basically one at a time. And of course, there's scripts that would do that, with some programming knowledge, but I think clicking the clear button is a whole lot easier. Window in the lower right, this is going to show us several different things. It's going to show us our graphs. It's going to show us help files. It's going to show us packages that we currently have installed, and also packages that we can install. All right. So we'll get to some of that. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to introduce you to these R Markdown documents, because these are the documents that we're going to use. These documents are basically a notebook interface. It takes your text file, the Notepad and the WordPad, adds some special formatting to it that allows you to run and execute the code in that document itself. All right? That code could be anything from R to Python to SQL to several other different programming languages. I think HTML code can also work in there. What we then do is once we have this document typed up, then we do something called knitting the document. And the knitting the document takes the code, weaves all the code together, and produces a very nicely formatted document. And the document could be either an HTML document, a Word document, or a PDF document. Now there's catches with PDF documents. All right, so not all computers are going to make the PDF documents. You have to have some sort of PDF creation software. The free one is Tex. LaTeX, I think, they've got free versions of LaTeX. If you're in physics, you probably encounter that, or math, you encounter LaTeX fairly often. We're going to use Word, all right? And I've got a Word document that is it's got some nonsense information, but I've gone through and set the styles of that document. So what we can do is say, I want to take all of this code and I want to knit it to a Word document using this Word document as a base, and then everything's going to be formatted the same. All of the headers, the sizes and colors are going to be the same, the font type's going to be the same, and everything. Makes it really, really nice. So how do we get to it? Well, File, New File, R Markdown. That creates our R Markdown document, and what that will do is replaces our text window with a Markdown document. So I go to File, New, and R Markdown. All right. We already tested it, so it should come up to this. And then what we're going to do is create a document. All right. We can give it a title. So I'll say Intro to R. All right. You can do your author, whatever. And I'm going to select Word. All right. If we change it to PDF or HTML, that also works. And I'll show you how that can work. So once I hit OK, what it does is produce this. Let's get this a little bit larger. And let's see if I can increase the view. Control plus plus. Control plus plus.